So good morning, almost afternoon. My name is Shannon Phillips. As of July, I am the new software application support analyst here at JWB. I'm assisting with Amplifund. I've been at JWB for 18 years working in IT, mainly with our internal staff, though I did assist with external SharePoint users, and I ran the JWB board and finance meeting technology-wise. I also sat on the capital RFA team for approximately the last 8 or 9 years.
Go to my things.
As many of you already know, Amplifund is our grant management system that we use for our financial and contract management systems. You can reach me by emailing provider-support@jwbpenhouse.org. Pilar Martinez from Amplifund is the customer success lead who will be holding our training today. There are several of the JWB staff senior program financial analysts on here as well. They will be helping to monitor the chat to answer any JWB program related questions. We will be posting the video for reference on our YouTube channel later on today or this week, as well as having a link to this video on our JWB website under Providers, Tools and Databases, Grants Management. Without waiting any longer, as we only have 1 hour for this training, I can turn this over to Pilar to get things started. Pilar?
Yeah. Hi, Shannon. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
That intro. Hi, everyone. Good morning. I'm Pilar Martinez, Customer Success Lead here in Amplifund, and I'm going to lead this training today. I know most of you are already pretty fluent in Amplifund, so this is meant to be mostly a refresher, but we're going to cover all the areas of the system that you should be working on. So I have here an agenda just to give you an idea. We're going to do some navigation, and then we're gonna spend most of our time in the financial reporting pieces, such as entering expenses, submitting a reporting period, and a payment request. We are also going to spend some time looking at the position change request form and other funding change form, as well as submitting an amendment request. At the end, we're going to leave some time for Q&A. Some housekeeping items. Please help us by submitting all your questions via chat. The JWB finance team is going to be monitoring for program-related questions. For Amplifund specific questions, Shannon is going to help me monitoring those and holding those to the end. So we'll leave some time to address those. That's really all I have. So with that, I am going to now change my sharing. So give me one moment while I navigate to Amplifund. So hopefully everyone is seeing Amplifund on the screen. All right, I see noddings, thank you. All right, let's start with very basic Amplifund navigation. When you first log in into the system, you land on this calendar. We are going to use here our left navigation to access our grant or to add new users through the administration tab. Then we have the user menu, which is where my name is. And I can use this menu for reading terms and conditions, getting accessing our help and support, changing password, etc. And then we have an icon toolbar in all of our pages. And these are, this will change depending on where you are. But the one that's going to be always there is this I, which is another way that you can contact our support team. The last piece that it's new for the ones that have been using Amplifund for the last few years is our new resource center, which is in the bottom left corner. We launched our resource center in the summer, and this can be very handy in case you forget any of the steps that we are going to go over today, I will recommend checking out our recipient grant management section specifically. We have guides here, in system guides that will help you refresh your memory on those steps. For example, if I click on expenses, how to add expenses is going to take me there, and it's dynamic. So it's going to walk me through each click by walking me through the fields that I need to cover in this example to enter an expense. So I highly suggest you checking this out if you haven't already. All right, let's very quick review how to add a new user. For that, let's say that you have a new staff member that you need to provide access to Amplifund. So any organizational admin can access this administration tab. I'm gonna then go to system security and then click on users. From here, you're gonna see all the current users, but to create a new one, you are going to go to the top right corner and click on create. And as simple as just filling out the 3 required fields, which are first name, last name, and email address. From there, you're going to click on create. You're going to get a validation message. And the last step will be for you to send an invitation by clicking again on the envelope here on the top right corner, and then click on send invitation. Something to note on the invitation is that it's valid for 72 hours. In case that invitation expires, you can always come back and click on the send the invitation icon next to the user's name. All right, let's now move on into how to find our grant. To do that, I'm going to go to Grants Management and then Grants. From this grid, you are, if you've been using Amplifund for a few years now, you are going to encounter here probably a longer list than this. You can identify the fiscal year here for easy identifying your grant. In this case, I'm just going to go and click on my 2024 award. This is going to be our details page. This page contains very useful information, such as how much have you been awarded, any match requirement, match equals other program funding for your terminology. So just wanted to point that out. Anywhere that you see match is going to be other program funding. I'm going to click here on the edit pencil. As subrecipients, you have only access to edit a few fields out of this award. You can give your own name to the award if you wish. And then you must select a recipient grant manager from this dropdown. I'm going to select Shannon. The recipient grant manager is very important because is the user that receives notifications such as submitted, approved, rejected payment requests or amendments. So keep that in mind when you select your recipient grant manager. I'm gonna click save. And with this, I finish the general overview of Amplifund. Now we are going to continue to the financial report submission steps. And for that, I wanted to start by saying that the financial reporting is basically divided in 3 main steps. The first one is going to be create expenses. Second is going to be creating a reporting period. And the third is creating a payment request. There are multiple places in the system where you can do any of those steps. So we're also going to cover those. The easiest for me in particular is to use this menu here at the top. Specifically, using the post-award tab is going to be where our financial reporting steps live. And we are going to use the custom tab for all of those for the other program funding or positions forms. So for now, we're going to focus on the post-award tab. Let's start by creating expenses, which is our step number 1. So for that, I'm going to go into post-award financial expenses. Other ways that you can create expenses are by going to the activity menu and then expenses is going to take you to exactly the same screen. Or you can always access it by going to your budget, financial budget, and then clicking on the $ next to the line items. So 3 ways that you can access the expense screen. Since I'm here on the budget, I just wanted to point out another new feature that we released this year, which is the actuals and remaining columns. So now besides your budget, you can see how much you've spent and how much is remaining. I'm going to click here on the expense or $ next to the line item. And as I said, we're going to land into this expense grid. You can notice here that the grant, it's already pre-selected when I access it from the budget. So if I wanted to add a new expense, I can go here to the plus sign and click create. From here, again, the grant is already pre-selected. I can change the category and the line item using these dropdowns. I would add here an amount as a direct cost. My exclude from match should always be checked. If it's not checked like this, please make sure to check this box. Next, I'm going to make sure that my expense date is the date of these costs, the date that was incurred. Let's just assume it was today. And then the expense status is going to be very important as well, because it needs to be reviewed in order to pull into the reporting period, which is our step number 2. So make sure to change expense status to reviewed. And then also make sure to select a payee out of the dropdown. You can always create a new one by clicking here on create and typing another name. Once you create this expense, it's going to automatically save into your dropdown. Let's look at the rest of the tabs here at the top. Once you finished with the general tab, we are going to move into attachments. The financials tab, you don't have to worry since expenses for match have been already entered from the JWB team. The attachments tab you can use to provide any files that might be relevant to share with JWB. And then finally, the custom tab has here three fields that you can use to enter a check number or a reference number for this expense. The total number of that check, it can be different than what you are actually expensing, and the check date. And finally, I'm going to click on Create. You'll see here in my grid that my expense has been entered. It has today's date. It has reviewed status. It has my line item, the payee, and the amount. I can always change my columns by clicking on any of these arrows, columns, and then you can check on and off any of these columns as you wish. You can also drag them and change the order that they show up. And I would recommend also using this export button if you want to see a list of all of your expenses for further analysis. Let's just do another one. Click Create in the plus sign. I am going to enter an amount. Make sure that it's excluded from match. Make sure that the expense date is the incurred date. Let's say that I forgot to change the status to reviewed, and I'm going to show you another way that you can also do this. I am going to select my payee, attach any feed files I need, enter my check information, and the date, and then click on Create. You see, I forgot to change the status to reviewed. Well, if I notice that at this point, I can always click on this checkbox and then click on this check mark to mark as reviewed. With that, I finalized my step number 1, which is entering expenses. Now we're going to move into step number 2, generating the reporting period. For that, I am going to go to my post-award tab, Management, Reporting Periods. As always, we are going to use our Create or plus sign button to create a new one. You'll get this pop-up asking you the time period that you would like to create. So I'm going to select expenses, which is the only option that you should be able to check. And then I'm going to select the period that I want to report on. You notice that the expenses that I created were all with October dates. So I'm going to select my October 1st to October 31st reporting period. Some of your reporting period might be quarterly. Just wanted to point that out. Some of your reporting periods might be monthly. So I'm going to select my October reporting period and save. Then I'm going to land on this summary of what expenses are being pulled into my reporting period. You can review here very quick that the start and end date are correctly. I will suggest you paying attention to this number of unreviewed expenses because it might be that you forgot to mark an expense as reviewed. So it's going to tell you any expenses that fall within this period that haven't been reviewed. So this is a good check for you in case you missed that piece of that step of the process. Here you are going to get a summary of your budget and then the expenses that you created for this particular period. Really, besides checking this page, the only other step that you have to complete is to close it. When you click on close, think about as submitting the reporting period. You are going to lock those expenses in and you won't be able to modify them. I'm going to close this reporting period and I'm going to get a success message. With that, I completed step number 2, creating the reporting period. Now let's move on to the last step of the financial reporting process, which is creating the payment request. You see that from the reporting period screen, I have a little icon here with a $sign next to my October reporting period. That, if I click on it, is going to take me to creating a payment request. Or you can also just use our menu, post-award, cash flow, payment requests. Since I'm here, I'm just going to click on the little $sign. When I access the reporting period from that $sign, it's going to pre-populate my reporting period. If you don't have the reporting period here, it's not a problem. You can always just click on it on the box, and then it's going to give you all the closed reporting period options that you have. You see that when I select the reporting period, it populates here under the financial details section all the expenses that I am pulling into this request. You can review from here. It's going to give you a nice summary of at the category level of the expenses that you have included and how much is remaining out of that category. If you wanted to see one more level down at the line item level, you can always click on the category name, and it's going to give you a breakdown of those expenses that you created and included in this request. Once I finish my review, I need to confirm the amount that I'm requesting in this box. I can add any comments or attachments as needed into the request. And once I am ready, I can always click to create it and come back later, or submit it to my funder. Please note that once it's submitted, you don't have access to make any changes. So I'm going to click on submit and then submit again. Okay, so that concludes the third step, creating a payment request. I wanted to cover very quick what happens when a payment request is rejected. We also rolled new functionality this year where you no longer have to create a new request when your payment request has been rejected. You can always just edit the previously submitted payment request. And for that, I'm going to demonstrate with this November 2023 example. When a payment request is rejected, the JWB financial team is going to reject both the payment request and the reporting period. So you are able to modify or edit your expenses as well in case it is needed. So let's go to my step number 1 all over again. I am going to go to my expense screen and click on run so I can see all of my expenses. When an expense is linked into a payment request, you are going to see that the expense status is closed. And whenever an expense is not in a submitted payment request, it's going to be as new or reviewed. And you're going to have this icon, this pencil icon that means that you can edit it. So I can come in and let's say that I maybe made a mistake on the amount. So I am going to modify my amount. I am going to maybe fix any other items that I forgot. And then I'm going to save. I have to basically do all over again. So I completed my expenses. I'm now sure that they are correct. So now I can go to my step number 2, reporting periods. You see that my November reporting period is in a rejected status. So what I need to do is come in and review it again. I see that the change I made, it looks correct. So I just close it one more time. Finally, I can go back to my payment request and resubmit. I am going to show you, I'm going to show you from the other screen, actually. Cash flow payment requests. I want to show you that you have this rejected status. In the past, you will have to click on plus sign and create a new one, but now you don't have to. If you click on the edit pencil on your previously created payment request, all the information that you already entered is going to be retained. So that's going to save you some steps. The only thing I need to do is to make sure that I have a reporting period selected and that my changes are correctly displayed here. I am going to fix my requested amount, add any comments or attachments. And finally, I wanted to point out that at the bottom, you'll get this payment request history where you see when I originally created this request and then the reason why it was rejected. Any comments that the JWB team provides are going to be right here. So once I'm ready, I am going to, again, click submit and submit again. Okay, so with that, now I've finished the financial reporting overview for you. Let's look at how to submit a other program funding change form and a position change request form. From your grant, let's go back to my grant. From your grant, again, I suggest you using this top bar to navigate. We mainly focus on the post award tab earlier. Now, I just wanted to point out this custom tab where you are going to be able to find those 2 change forms. Let's look at the award position change form first. If you've created a form before, you'll see them displayed here in this grid. I haven't done one yet, so I'm going to click here on the plus sign as always in my top right corner. And this is as simple as just filling out the form by selecting and making sure that I fill all of my required fields that are identified with a star. So I'm going to do my date. I am going to select my reason of change, which could be multiple options. I'm going to type a description, a title, the position number, the staff first name and last name, and other information such as gross salary, program and JWB salary, when the staff started and ended. Oh, percentage fields, they must be typed with the decimal point. So in this case, if I want to do a 50%, I'm going to type 0.5. And then finally create. Now you've seen that my grid is displaying all that information that I typed into my form. Let's look at the other program funding change form very quick. Same deal, create, plus sign, top right corner. This one is a little shorter. So what's my date of change? Again, reason for funding change, I can select multiple options. Type any details, select the source and the funding amount. Make sure to enter a narrative and then click create. Again, every time you create a form, they are going to populate here as a list. Another thing I wanted to point out on these forms is that the position change form has to be created every time that you create an amendment and you are moving amounts between personnel categories. And we're going to look at the amendments next. So in order to create an amendment, we are going to go to the Post Award tab one more time. Management, Amendments. You're getting the gist of it, plus sign in order to create a new amendment. The most common requests are going to be amendments of the category budget type. So in order to select this type of amendment, these are 4 available, but if you wanted to create a category budget amendment, there's a double click situation here to be aware of. Please make a click here on the radio button. It's going to turn green, and then you're going to click on the letters. So that's something to be aware of. Double click first on the radio button, then on the letters. If your amendment is proposing any changes to budget categories, increases or decreases, it is required that you enter a budget narrative in any of these boxes, the one that it applies. So I will just type my narrative here. When you scroll down you get more questions. If this includes a personnel category amendment, make sure to fill out the award position form. It's the one that we just reviewed a couple of minutes ago on the custom tab. If this amendment includes a personnel category and you requested your form, then you're going to say yes. If no, you're going to say not applicable. Then I'm going to enter an amendment name, and I'm just going to name it October 2023 and my requested date as today. Finally, in order to create this amendment, you will check the categories where you are moving money from or to. I said that I was gonna change my positions, and let's go with contractual services. This table here at the bottom is going to summarize what you want to change. I wanted to point out that you have here from left to right, you have your category. In these boxes, you have your proposed budget category total. On the third column, you have your current budget category total. And then finally, you have your actuals. If I already had expensed money out of these categories, I'm going to see it here. In this case, I haven't yet. So what I'm going to do is, let's assume that I want to move $10,000 from positions to contractual services. I am going to enter the new amount that I want this category to be. So I'm going to deduct those 10,000 from the positions, 40,000. So now it's 30,000. And I am going to add them to the contractual services. So my new amount is going to be 60,000. Finally, I can add a justification, or I can make internal notes just for me. Similar to the payment request, you can save and come back later, or go ahead and submit. Here in the grid, you're going to have a summary of your previously created amendments, but if you want to look at it, you can click here on the magnifier icon. That concludes the custom forms and how to submit an amendment. Finally, I wanted to show you a handy report that you can access by clicking on Reports, Post Award, Grant Budget Variance. If I wanted to have more real estate, I can always collapse my left menu, and I can always collapse my filters, or I can change my columns if I wanted to just reduce the amount of information I wanted to see, or move my columns, similar to what you will do in Excel. I'm going to remove a few columns. I can always look one grant at a time. If I wanted to see the grant that I was using as an example, I can just select here. And what it's going to give me is a summary of my budget, my actuals, and my remaining amounts at the category and line item level. There's other handy reports that I encourage you to explore, such as the payment request detail, which is newer as of last year. Actually, I'm just going to click on it since we have a few moments. This is going to give you a summary of the payment request that you've created. From here, I am going to select the grant that I want to see. This report gives you 3 levels of details. At this level, the first one, you have just a summary of those payment requests that I've created for this grant. You see, these are the 2 examples that we walk by today. I can click here on this arrow next to the payment request name and get category level details. And finally, I can click on the letters of the payment request name and get more drill down details to the line item level. Those 2 reports, I find them very handy. I hope they are helpful to you as well. And Shannon, with that, I conclude the refresher training and we can move into the Q&A.
Okay, I think really mostly it's more JWB program answers that need to be touched on. And they seem to be answering them in the chat.
Okay, we can give a few minutes here since we have them in case people can think of any questions you may want to ask. Feel free to drop them on the chat and we'll do the best to answer them.
Polar, somebody asked if you could go back to entering a payee in expense. Is that, I think that's correct, Melissa? I related that correctly? Yes.
Yes, I can do that for sure.
Okay, thanks.
Yes, okay. Let's review that. I am going to go to my activity module since it's another option to do it. I'm going to demonstrate activity expenses. You can do it also from the grants management module. I'm going to select, actually, I can just click on the plus sign. I'm going to select my grant. I'm going to select category. Enter an amount. Make sure it's in reviewed status. Oh, look at that. What happens? Let's see if it's just stuck. Huh. Let me try again. That didn't happen before. Let's just do this. Oh, Melissa, this is what happens to you? Interesting. All right, I'm gonna try like this. Okay, now I get it. Interesting. Melissa, I've never entered a pay. Okay, I apologize. I don't really know why it's doing that. But I'm going to create a ticket to make sure that our team troubleshoots. But I just wanted to point out that you saw that if I have these top fields pre-selected and I click on the plus sign, I get the option to select a payee. So I don't know why it's not doing it if I just clear. Let's see. It's just, yeah, it looks like it's probably like a bug. So I would just, in the meantime, make sure that you select a grant from here before clicking on the plus sign. Or you can always just make sure to create expenses from the grant, like once you are on the grant, financials, expenses, because it's going to pre-populate those fields for you. And you shouldn't have that problem. So just to demonstrate the whole thing, I'm going to enter the amount. To create the payee, you can select from the dropdown if you have created them already, or click on create new and then type the name of the person. I think you said personnel or something. Well, you can type the name of the payee and create.
She says she only has pre-selected options. She just can't create new payees.
Okay, you should have this create new option. And if you click on it, you can type a new one. And then when you create this expense, it's going to add to your dropdown. So let me show you. If I create a new one, I should have two. You see, I have that one I created previously. Does that answer the question? Okay. And I'll check on that bug on why the pay field is not showing up. Any other Amplifund questions? Okay. Maybe Melissa Merlot, we can do a share, like a screen share one-to-one later today to troubleshoot why you cannot create a new one. Shannon, do you think you can help me coordinating that?
Yes, I can get in touch with her and see if we
Okay.
can work on that.
All right, thank you. Expense report should be working, yes. And I assume Robin is talking about the, are you talking about the expense detail one?
Yes, I am.
Okay. So it should be working similar to the others. You have your filters here on the right. You can check on any columns and adjust the width as needed. Also, all these reports are exportable. I forgot to mention that into, I will suggest Excel, but you can use other PDF. RTF will equal like Word, CSV. So the time period, Robin, are you talking about the reporting period?
Yes, I am.
Okay, so the JWB defines the reporting period length, either monthly or quarterly. So on your end, it's already going to be pre-configured to show you quarterly or monthly options when you create that reporting period. The way that you define what expenses fall into what reporting period are when you create an expense, the expense date is going to define where this expense is going to fall. So if I select a December date, let's say December 7th, this is going to be pulled into the, let's say, December monthly reporting period. Does that make sense?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, so, but I'm trying to do reconciliation between my subsystem and this. There's no way to say I want to see all expenses for like September.
You can always use this report by clicking activity expenses, and then you can select your grant and then a time frame.
And you can do a custom.
Yes,
Okay.
Yeah, so I can select October and then run. And it's going to give me all of those expenses I created for October, and then you can export it.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to provide Shannon with this PowerPoint, but I wanted to show you that we've included your resources in case that you have any other questions. JWB has their own email for you to access, and a website, or we also have our support team that you can contact. This deck also includes, this is just how to access our support site. And then it's going to contain an appendix with all of the content that we went over today. So in case that you forget the order of the steps, how to create a user, any of that, you can just reference to this deck in the future. Okay.
Well, thank you very much, Pilar. If nobody else has any questions, that slide deck will be uploaded to our website, as well as the video, and the video will be uploaded to YouTube as well on our page, definitely by the end of the week, if not in the next few days. We thank everybody for attending the Amplifund recipient training. If you don't have anything else, you have a few extra minutes in your day to do something else.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
I hope it was helpful, and reach out if you have any questions.